Pattern thinking is killing your creative leadership. Let me show you how and why. Hi, this is Rick Curtis, and this leadership moment is brought to you from the Marriott Pulse Hotel in downtown San Diego. About 1 decade ago, I was on another one of my solo adventures, this one to Peru. I love Peru. I've visited that magnificent country on 4 occasions. This particular adventure led me to Nazca. While the famous Nazca lines were studied most exhaustively by Maria Reich, they were made uber famous by Van Denken in his whacked book, Chariot of the Gods. These mysterious drawings, cut through the desert by long forgotten peoples, were a curious touch to the history of the area and a window into the thoughts of early man. Any student of semiotics will tell you how significant these types of illustrations are within a culture, and while I could share all that I learned about these lines with you, I won't. I will, however, tell you my thoughts related to the patterns and how we as humans were created by God and experienced to think nearly exclusively in them. Furthermore, I will share with you why it is that until you fully understand this, you will never be the leader that you could otherwise be. This is important because these patterns that our brain uses to understand our world are significant, and most of us fail to realize the constructions our minds use to bring understanding to our experience. Allow me this short illustration to form my premise. Fill in the pattern below. 5, 4, 3, 2. Naturally, every one of you said 1. Let's do that again. A, B, C. To which you obviously answered D. Every native English speaker on the planet just received 100% on that 2-question quiz. And here's why. These patterns were ingrained early in our childhood development, and our brain can produce the answer without much cognitive process. We will never have to turn the gears to get the right answer because they stem from patterned response instead of cognitive process. In fact, little or no process is required until the pattern unexpectedly changes. Then we process cognitively. Why? Because as human beings, we need 3 things to function and interact well together: normalcy, safety, and productivity, each of which are given to us by our brain's learned, processed responses. Normalcy brings a sense that we can relax, that nothing unexpected will come in the normal situations of life. The human animal psychologically needs to have respite in the inundation. If the laws of physics did not exist, neither could we, physically or mentally. Things need to be repeatable and normal, or else we become basket cases. Secondly, patterns bring safety. We know that if we perform certain duties or experience specific things in life, they will be either safe or dangerous. It would be an unsafe world if sometimes the stove would burn you and other times it would not. Or if opposing traffic lights suddenly decided to both turn green at the same time. Patterns afford safety. Lastly, patterns bring productivity. The Industrial Revolution illustrated this well. In the most simple of terms, we could not manufacture anything with quality if we were unable to depend upon patterns, upon repeatability, upon getting the same result every time certain conditions were created. Now, let's have some fun. Allow me to continue our experiment by giving you another test. Fill in the blank. 0, 15, 30. And here's question number 2. A, E, I, O. Now these patterns are moving towards slightly more complex patterns, and chances are good that you just received a 50% grade on this test. Don't miss this next point. Patterns bring normalcy, safety, and productivity, but the more complex the patterns, the more difficult they are to solve from an ingrained patterned response. And as the data sets get even more complex, it becomes nearly impossible. Why is this? Because our early childhood development that brings us safety in really hard situations is hard to defeat. Now I need to explain some things first, but I could give you one word and you would immediately see the new pattern in the test that you just took, and your 50% grade would become 100%. But before I give you that word, let me tell you why your grade is only 50%. Those patterned behaviors in your brain are like ruts in your gray matter. Every thought travels down those ruts, and until you learn to jump out of those ruts, you will continue to think in patterns. Truly remarkable leaders have learned to do just that, jump the ruts of early patterned learning and behaviors. The thing is, until you train yourself or you have a trigger, the brain fails to jump the ruts. Ready to see how easy it is to jump from one patterned response to another given the right trigger? Good. If I say the word tennis, you should now get 100% on your test. The correct answer was 0, 15, 30, 40. But you would never have assumed that 40 was the right answer because of an ingrained patterned response. All of this to point out what you didn't know you didn't know. Your thoughts are in a rut, and to be truly creative in your leadership, you cannot rely on your patterned gray matter to tell you what the right thing to do is and expect a breakout result or an entrepreneurial aha. You need triggers in your life that will jack your brain out of its patterned responses and change the routing that has been burned into the gray. I have learned to do several different things over the years, and you will need to find your own ways because jumping ruts is never easy. Here's some of my practices. You may find a couple of them to be strange, but you know what? They work for me. Let me share them with you. The first is the creative pause. Give time to think about the situation or problem. How many times have you woken up in the morning or in the middle of the night and something is extremely clear? Your routing can sometimes jump the gray when it's relaxed. Stress or time restrictions force the brain into safety of the patterned response. This rarely leads to a breakout moment. Next, the wisdom of the crowd. While simple patterns are universal, your ruts and your cognitive responses are unique to you. Facilitating a greater dialogue on an issue affords a multitude of possibilities that you, even on your best day, could never have conceived of on your own. Here's another. Tagging, or listing it's sometimes called. I will try to identify a word or a thought that best identifies or summarizes a critical issue that I need to think differently about. I write it on a 3-inch Post-it and I place it on the wall. Then I look at that Post-it and I write the next word or thought that comes to mind and I stick it on the wall as well. Then I repeat and let my mind take me to multiple words, scenarios, and thoughts that I would otherwise not have had, and each one being stuck on the wall. At times, I may have 50 to 100 Post-its on the wall before I have my aha. Sometimes when a thought or solution does not come, I have to let this be preparation for the creative pause. But eventually, this exercise in lateral thinking affords me new thoughts. I have found that for this to work best, each Post-it should be placed in a totally random pattern on the wall, not following linearly. The following are two unique ways that I use. They've worked really well for me, but I'll throw them out to you as well. Drawing the problem. I start to sketch anything I can think about related to the problem or the situation. This is similar to listing that I just talked about, but it seems to me it activates the right side of the brain instead of the left. I continue to draw crazy or unrelated things until those ruts are jumped and a lateral thought or thoughts begin to come. And finally, the dictionary flip. This is by far the most simple tool I use, and it is really effective. Simply consider the problem or situation, then flip open the dictionary, put your finger on a word, and read the definition and see how it relates, or if you can make it relate to your situation. I recently did this exercise with a nonprofit organization that we were roundtabling how to increase the organization's membership. We were stuck for ideas, so I asked for a dictionary. I opened the page, dropped my finger, and right on the word, commensalism. Weird, right? The definition was something like when an organism benefits from another without damaging it. This caused a uniquely crazy discussion about community, relationships, do no harm, add value, benefits of fellowship, all those kind of things. This was huge for the organization, and they realized that they had not been adding value to its members. You need to find your own ways of jumping your ruts, because my purpose here is not a prescription. My purpose is that you would realize that you are hindered, like every other human being on the planet, because of your individual ruts. It's time to take your new awareness and find a way to begin your own creative thought process. I assure you, you will be amazed at the way your newly wired brain will see problems in an entirely new light.